What can you do to make the Toyota Tacoma faster? I get a lot of questions on the channel about this, so we're going to settle it once and for all. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to RobMotive. So the question, what can you do to make the Toyota Tacoma faster? And you know, it's interesting, since I get this question a lot, I get comments once in a while that people say that, well, you should have known it was a slow truck when you bought it. It's a truck. It's not going to be fast. Why do you keep asking this question? Why do you keep talking about this? Well, you know, I get enough questions on the channel about it that obviously I'm not the only one. There are a lot of people out there that would love to have a faster Toyota Tacoma. So let's get into it. What can you do? What are the options? What's available out there? Well, first of all, let's talk about exhaust. People always bring up exhaust. If I put a different exhaust on it, how much horsepower am I going to increase? How much faster is the truck going to be? Well, let me tell you, zero, as far as what you're going to feel. And this whole video is going to be prefaced on the assumption that we're talking about how the vehicle feels, not throwing it up on a dyno with a real sensitive, test and seeing how many little dinky horsepowers we can increase by. I'm talking about seat feel. If I can't feel it, as far as I'm concerned, it does not exist. So, a new exhaust. The answer is zero, nothing. You're not going to feel anything. Now, does that mean it's not going to increase horsepower? No, it doesn't. It probably does increase horsepower. A lot of the aftermarket manufacturers out there claim that their product does. And it only holds to reason that if they were lying, they'd be out of business. So there has to be some merit that when they throw the Tacoma up on a dyno and test it after they put that new aftermarket exhaust on, that it does increase horsepower. But it's not enough that you're going to be able to feel it. Next up, the cold air intake, one of my favorites, as well as the aftermarket exhaust. The same thing. The answer is no. You're not going to have a big increase in horsepower. You're not going to feel any difference. It isn't going to matter. It isn't going to matter at all. You know, the biggest thing you get, there's two things that you get when you go with a cold air intake. One, you're going to get better looks. You're going to get a better looking under the hood experience. It's an aesthetic mod. They look fantastic under there, and I love them for it. I really do. Secondly, you might get a little bit more sound. A lot of people claim that they've gotten more sound out of their Tacoma after putting on an aftermarket cold air intake. You know, I've had, I think, 3 different ones on my Tacomas, and I've never noticed anything. I've never really noticed any big difference. I shouldn't say never noticed anything. There might be something subtle there, but it certainly hasn't been the big difference that a lot of people report. I think there's a couple of things going on when people say that you're wrong, Rob. I do notice an increase and I do notice a sound difference. And that's one, the placebo effect. They put it on, they went through the trouble to do it, they spent the money, and they're kind of hearing things that aren't really there. They think there's some kind of an improvement, but it's not really happening. Secondly is they spent the money, they're trying to justify it, they're disappointed, so they just go ahead and go with the assumption that there's something there when there really isn't. Because I'm here to tell you, I've done them all, well, not them all, I've done a few, and there is no difference. So no horsepower increase with a cold air intake that you're able to feel. Again, if you throw it up on a dyno, I'm sure you're probably going to see some sort of an increase, but it's not going to be in the form of feelable power. Next up, the aftermarket plugins, the throttle controllers. Now, these are awesome. I happen to have the Sprint booster, and I've talked about this numerous times. I try to keep you guys updated on how it's doing. But I have the Sprint booster on my Toyota Tacoma. It does not increase power. That's the fallacy, I think. It doesn't increase power. It simply gets rid of throttle lag, which makes you feel like you have more power. Something that we can actually feel. Now, what I'm talking about, if you're not really aware of it, I don't know how you couldn't be if you own a Toyota Tacoma or if you've ever driven one, but when you hit the gas, there's a hesitation before anything happens. It kind of looks up at you and says, hey dude, what are you doing? I'm comfortable. The throttle controller, sprint booster in this case, gets rid of that. When you hit the gas, it goes, even when you're already going. In other words, it's not just a from the takeoff solution. It also is effective when you're already traveling down the road. For instance, you're trying to merge onto the freeway. You hit the gas, it goes. There's no more little lag before it actually takes off. Again, that is not a power increase. It's simply a change in the way that the engine reacts when you actually push on the gas. So what is there? If none of these things actually work, what the heck can you do to make the Toyota Tacoma faster? Well, there is one thing that you can, well, there's two things that you can do. You can buy an old one that had the bigger 4-liter engine. I don't know if that's a lot faster, but it certainly should be faster than the 3.6. Or you can supercharge it. A supercharger is going to add about 100 horsepower. You're also going to get a tune with that. That tune is going to eliminate the throttle lag, and the supercharger itself is going to give you something that you can feel. I mean, when you add 100 horsepower to anything, unless you've already got like 1,000 horsepower, you're going to be able to tell the difference, especially in a Toyota Tacoma. I know a couple people that have done it. They love it. For me, I don't know that it's really worth the cost. You know, it's going to be somewhere between $8,000 to $10,000 by the time all is said and done, unless you can do it yourself. But I'm assuming most people out there don't have a fully tooled garage and the help to be able to do that themselves. So 8 to 10 grand for 100 horsepower. I don't know. To me, it's not really worth it. I really suggest when people ask about that, going the throttle lag reducer path, because that to me makes a big enough, a profound change in the way that the truck feels, and that's enough to make it fun to drive. You don't have to spend that 8 to 10 grand for a supercharger to have a Toyota Tacoma, or to make a Toyota Tacoma the way that it should be. But of course, in the end, it's all personal preference. If you got an extra 8 grand laying around, getting musty, you know, a little dust on it, you want to clean it off and use it, then why not? The other thing, and there's one more thing that I want to mention about the tuner, you know, you better make sure you have a good shop, because it's a pretty intensive mod. There's a lot of things they have to do, and if the shop is not familiar with it, chances are you're going to have troubles, and then it's going to be a headache. And I think that it's much better to have a slow Tacoma than one that doesn't run right at all. Anyway, leave a comment. Let me know your experience, and be honest. What have you done that has increased the power or made the Toyota Tacoma faster? I would be very curious to know. I might do it myself. Leave a comment. Also, real quick, I do have 2 additional channels. RobMotive MT, all about mini trucks, currently the Hyundai Santa Cruz, and RobMotive JT, all about Jeep Gladiators. Right now, the latest, the Jeep Gladiator Mojave. Check them out, and if you're interested, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. Bye.